On one beautiful Christmas evening, Mary was ready to fulfill the daydreams she had been having towards that day. It was the thought of having her favorite meal, a meal which had become an unofficial tradition in the family. Fried rice, a chock-load of salad, meat from the best goat from all the lands, and a nice chilled beverage by her side to flush it down. It wasn't much, but it was her best, and she would have it no other way on Christmas Day. Now the time has finally come. She had relished the fragrance of the meal, made sure the area was secure from intruders. She loved to eat alone for some reason, and she was about ready to have her feast. Just then, a shrieking scream made its way to her room from the living room. It was her mother's. Mother's screams had become increasingly normal of late. Seeing as her age had begun to catch up to her, Mary reckoned it as some insignificant problem. Say she accidentally changed the channel while sitting on the remote, or she left the fire still on after cooking, or a big black dog had been staring at her through the kitchen window again. Mary hardly believed this story. Through Mary's thought, a second scream came through her. Okay, maybe this time it was serious, as mother screams never comes twice in a row. Mary rushed to the living room to see what was going on. It was not a friendly sight. Mary met her mother staring at the ground, her eyes puffy and red, one hand to her face concealing her lips, the other pointing towards something on the ground. Mary's eyes trailed to the ground. It was her sister. She had been holding her throat, spazzing on the carpet with her eyes bulging. She looked as though she was going to pass out. "What happened?" Mary asked. Her mother, still unable to speak clearly, stuttered the words. I think she's choking." Mary's dad stumbled his way to the living room, his face looking worried. "She's choking, Dad. Do you know that chock-load thing?" "I do, but you need to get some water too." "Okay." Mary began to make her way to the fridge when her dad stopped her. "No, Mary, there's no water there." "What? How come?" "We didn't get it along with the drinks, remember?" Mary tried to remember the day, but it seemed, in all ways she looked at it, that they definitely got water along with the drinks. "I'm not sure, Dad, but if you say so." "So what do we do now?" Mary's sister was still on the ground, looking like she could pass out in any moment. "You'll have to go to get some water. Please hurry. I'll use the chock-load thing, but we'll need some water afterwards." Mary complied, and she stormed out of the room towards the gate, unlocked it, stepped out, locked it behind her, and went out into the night. Mary walked into the dark, still shaken from the whole incident in the house, half wondering if her food would still be warm when she returned home. "Oh, Christmas night is ruined," she thought. It was about now she realized she had no torch, and the street lamps were out for no reason. "Anyways, shouldn't be 4 now. I'll get to the supermarket and be home in no time," she said. She had this sense that someone was following her. Well, it was a normal feeling, and anyone gets it at night, she thought. There was no way someone could be following me at that time. Mary stopped thinking. In fact, she lost the ability to think due to the things she had just seen. It was the silhouette of a dog, but not quite. Maybe a lion. No, it had to be a dog. Only much like the biggest dog she had seen in her life. Its head was as large as one of the cedar sofa in their living room, and there's no better way to say it. It was ripped, like the body of an athlete, if it were a dog. And it was black, much blacker than the night around them. It had red, gleaming eyes, hard to miss. Did I mention it was a black night? Anyway, Mary froze in her steps at the sight of it. The dog did not move, but she was sure it would if she did. It had a bit of distance with her, but she was certain if it leaped, it would land on her. Still, the dog did not move. It seemed to be cocking its head towards something behind her. Its eyes were reminiscing on the emotions of the eyes of someone she had seen not long ago. It was the eyes of her father. The dog was worried. Its head still peering down to look beyond her. Mary could feel her heart meet her lungs. She began to very slowly turn her head behind her to see whatever the dog was looking at, and just then, a very low, very deep sound could be heard in front of her. At first she thought it was a growl, but it wasn't. The sound made too much sense to be a growl. It was words. In her experience, words had never been so cruel, anguished, and full of terror. The words were, "Don't look back." They came from the dog. Mary's legs went numb. Her internal words was imploding on itself. What was happening? But her mania was cut short, as the dog, so still and calm, though worried all this time, now had its head looking up. Eyes similar to that of her mother's earlier, but much, much worse. Its mouth was open. She could see the gap of lighter darkness where its mouth should have been. It seemed ready to leap. Mary's legs wobbled, unable to brace for the dog's carnage, preparing her mind for the worst. Suddenly, a dark shadow landed upon the dog, rose it in the air, and tore it in half. It ripped the bones from its muscles, and the dark shadow began to consume its innards. Mary's complex thoughts had been reduced to two simple ones: die or run. Mary forced herself to regain the feeling in her legs. It seemed impossible before now, but who knew? She ran faster than she ever had in her life. The darkness was no longer a problem. She now knew the streets like the back of her hand. She finally reached the gate of the house. She did not open the gate. It already was. She reached the door and opened. Her father was standing on the sofa, now coming towards her. He seemed to be mouthing something. Her hearing was coming in like someone who had just woken up. "Mary! Mary! Mary!" her father screaming in her ear. Mary couldn't form words. That skill had long found its way out of her mind. "Mary, what are you saying? What happened to you?" "Shadow outside, dog dead, must stay in house," Mary struggled. Her heightened brain functions began to set in. It was just then she remembered her sister. She wasn't on the rug. "Where's sister?" "She's in her room. She'll be fine. But did you get the water?" Mary stared at her father, looking confused. "Didn't he hear anything I just said?" Mary heard a noise at the gate. "Oh no, I forgot to lock it," she thought. She turned her head, and surely this time, her heart did touch her lungs. She was once again staring in those red, gleaming eyes, but this time, it wasn't worried, it was crying. This time, she could feel the dog's words within herself, the word that probably saved her life a few moments ago. Unfortunately, this time, it did not matter, because it was already too late. Mary looked back, and what she saw was definitely worth the warning from the dog. Scary as it was, a warning to not look back.